I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing till we can honor our veterans, both past and present. Thank you. Please be seated. Mrs. Brooks is away, and Mr. Gracie may not be on Zoom, but he won't be present here in the meeting. So we have three of us so far. Okay.
Don't push it.
Yeah. We have signed the warrant, so we can move on to appointments first.
No appointments.
No appointments, right, okay. Okay, going to new business. The Filibus Telethon update. Who's here to give us some information there?
Hi, Peter Chase, Director of Media for Town of Dartmouth. So we got good news. We raised over $3,000 in our first telethon ever. We also filled, I think, 2 buses plus and received numerous gift cards. All the toys and gift cards and whatnot be given out to local people in need and group homes. Dolores Joseph is helping out, pass out some of those great things. And also Jerry Pinto from Safe Zones and Tremley Bus, who is a big proponent of it, helps pass out all the toys too. We'd like to thank a few people. We had Chops Turner, Tabitha Cabral Elliott provide some live entertainment that day for the telethon. We had the Dartmouth High School Band, Orchestra, and Dance Team provide some recorded entertainment. Brian Obrieger and Joey Knight from BN Sound and Lighting helped out with the sound, and he gave us a big donation on just the money off of his services. Target of Dartmouth, obviously. We had many town officials, police officers, employees, and residents come on the show. We kind of dragged them as they were giving out dropping off toys and dropping off donations, so that was great. We had 2 large monetary donations, one of them from North Dartmouth Properties, Mr. Sean McDonald. We thank you very much. And also another big one was DYAA 14U baseball team. They raised some money to go to a playoff game in South Carolina, I think, and they had a bunch of extra money, so they decided to donate it. And then also Big Wheels brought in a big donation afterwards too. We'd also like to thank Paul Santos, Ryan Aruda, and Hannah Lima for hosting. Mr. Rob Parati and his DHS students, where there was a few of them here. We showed up at 8 a.m. that day to start setting up, and had a really good production going on, and they were there until 2:30 in the afternoon, and then after we got to go over to Max's to have a nice lunch and have their holiday party with them, and we got to spend some great time with them. But they were very big partners in this. Like, they ran all the cameras, did all the audio, did a lot of work behind the scenes with us, and without them it wouldn't have happened. The Dartmouth Police Department, we had many officers there come on the show and talk to us, and then also Detective Kyle Costa, who started this telethon, or Fill the Bus, years ago. He helped us all day long, grabbing people and throwing people in to interview, and then also he would come on when we were slowing down and we didn't know what we were going to do next, so he'd help fill in a little bit, and even at the end we got him to sing a little bit too, so that was a great time. And then finally, my staff. I had some stuff going on a couple of weeks leading up to this, so I had to take a back seat a little bit to it, but they took the ball, ran with it. Mike Manise, Dan Medeiros, and Chad Amaral. I can't think of better guys right now. I think we're a great team, and we're out in the community doing as much as we can, and want to continue doing more. And then finally, the Dartmouth community in general, who gave of their time, their monetary donations, their toys, and all their donations that they give. And we just hope to do a lot better next year and bigger. So we want to get it bigger and better next year. And I remember when we were setting up, and Kyle looks at me and says, "I thought you were bringing one camera." And I was like, "No, I never said that." So it was a great day and great event. So that's it. Thank you.
Want to speak at all, Mr. Parati? Students, maybe? Great.
Thank you. So yeah, we were planning this for prior years, going with the students and myself, and we really want to try and see what we could do to help the community, and working with Peter Chase and Detective Costa on this was a no-brainer. And it was a great experience for all the students that were involved. We had students on every single one of the cameras that were out there at the target. We were running 3 cameras, and I just remember just a little story. Unfortunately, the students didn't know that it was going to be such a cold day that day, so I had to run over to the Home Depot and buy gloves and then the hand warmers that they had to use all day, because they were literally at the cameras from, like Mr. Chase said, they were there from, we got there at 8 a.m. and we didn't leave till well after 2 o'clock, so, you know, they worked very, very diligently, and they were true professionals in that manner. And Ben was also, this is one of my students, Ben Smith, sophomore at Dartmouth High School. He was integral into you know, helping out and planning this out as well. So I'd like him to say a few words.
Wonderful.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Parati. First things first, when I thought of the telethon, it was a big event. I've went to this event for years when I was a kid at a young age, donating toys to kids in need, and it was a great opportunity that we were able to get it, and it was just a fun time filming it, and then that after party too. It was fun as well. So.
Thank you. Question?
Mr. Parati, it's amazing what you keep pumping out of these kids in these programs.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Want to say a few words?
Sure.
Kyle.
I wasn't planning on it, but
This is your swan song, so let's go.
my swan song. This is
He
true.
wasn't planning on it, but you weren't planning on it, get a 4-page script
Yeah,
over
right.
there.
Yeah, I see a developing pattern here. I would go after a bald guy, too. I don't know what's going on there. I had actually submitted a letter to Mr. McGinnis earlier in the week, and I don't know if the Select Board will get a copy of it. It's probably easier for me just to read that, because if I keep
ahead.
talking, it's probably going to take a heck of a lot longer. I was just, to the Honorable Select Board, it's my honor and with great pleasure that I report back to you that our 7th annual toy drive at Target was a great success. As expected, generosity certainly was not in short supply as we packed 2 full-size school buses with toys and other significant items of need. As I disclosed to the board at an earlier meeting, Dartmouth Youth Advocate Dolores Joseph was on hand to gather items that she will distribute to those Dartmouth families in need of assistance this year. In addition, with money left over from last year's drive, we were also able to purchase 8 $50 Amazon gift cards, which will be distributed to the teenagers on Miss Joseph's list. In its inaugural year, the collaborative telethon was a decisive success, raising over $3,000, as Mr. Chase had already referenced. Though it's always hard for me to single out people, I don't like to do that in such a giving time. I did have to single out a few people. Mr. McDonald was previously mentioned that he gave $1,000. Members of the Dartmouth 14 Under Dream Team were over $1,000. Eric Fouquet of Big Wheels Towing donated $750. And then also he sold himself short, ironically enough, and left himself off the list, but Peter Chase gave $500. Moving forward, it's my hope this extraordinary event will maintain its standing as a purposeful way for the community to come together to help those less fortunate in need of assistance each year. Not quite sure it is my swan song, but we'll see how that goes as time passes. So I just really appreciate the Select Board taking the time to make note of this every year. It does make a huge difference, and you have one hell of a community. That's what I can say. So I thank you.
Anybody else? How about? Fantastic. Thank you all for coming tonight, not only for the program, but also letting people know what went on. Yeah. Mr. McDonald.
Having been involved in telethons in the past, especially with, I know some of the older, with Whaling City TV.
Here we go.
At the old Warming House, then Howland Place with Phil Paleogas, Bill Cabral, Steve. Oh, I can't think of it. I want to say Brown, but Steve from Whaling City TV. Seeing the camera work done there and comparing it, videotaping the telethon and going back afterwards and watching it at night, seamless, absolutely seamless. No, the difference between the two is negligible, and for the first time out, The students at Dartmouth High School did a great job, and so did DCTV. As far as continuing, Kyle has set the bar for the other offices in the department for the future. I'm seeing one in the background already smiling, saying that you probably handle it next year. And also a big thank you to Target, for allowing this to happen on their premises. The gauntlet going into the store from everybody was very impressive, especially having the officers and their families there also kind of brought everything home. So you guys did a tremendous job. It was, I can only think it can only get better next year. So I'm looking forward to it already. So, not for the purpose, but at least the event. Hopefully the purpose isn't there, but we know that's not to be true. So.
Okay, wonderful. Next on the agenda, we are moving on to Community Service Outreach Team Winter Coat Drive and the Community Resource Fair Update.
Here they come.
Here come the big guns. There they come.
Before we start,
Yes.
there is a rule in the select board that 49er scarves cannot be worn.
Really?
No, I know it's not.
Actually,
I know.
there's a high fine. Pretty serious fine.
Hey, just listen. I'm happy this year, so that's all I can say.
Should be. Because I know I'm not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So thank you. So my name is Dolores Joseph. For those who don't know who I am, I'm the youth advocate, and this is
Amy DePietro, Dartmouth Council on Aging.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about our community resource fair that was held actually today at the North Branch of the Dartmouth Library from 10 to 2, which we feel was a great success for us having only a month to pull it together and get the resources there. We had over 21 different resources representing fuel assistance, housing, mental health, physical health, and other resources that were there. And around about 25 individuals actually came in and engaged with the services. So we definitely want to do this again in the future. We've decided, or we're thinking about possibly sending out a survey monkey to the people who were actually there, the agencies that were there, to kind of get their feedback to see, what we can improve on, what they liked, what they didn't like, maybe some times that were different. Since we did it in the morning, we may try to do an evening or an afternoon resource fair and have it open out to the public. So I thought it was very successful, and we had a lot of people show up. DCTV, thank you. Well, he's not here, but DCTV was there doing interviews with the different providers that were there, so hopefully that will be airing really soon. So I think Amy's going to talk about the coat drive that kind of goes along with what we've been talking about here.
Yes, so our next project that we're actually in the process of already collecting is a winter coat drive. We have heard from first responders that one of the things that people out in the community are asking for is a warm coat, gloves, clean, warm socks. We can't always, people don't always want to accept the services that we're offering, but they do need to stay warm. So we are going to start a winter coat drive. We will have boxes outside of the Board of Health, which is downstairs on the first floor, the police department, both branches of the library, and the Council on Aging. First responders will have access to this clothing, so when they're out in the community, they'll be distributing. Thank you.
Could we get the sign, the lit sign around town, maybe?
Well, we should have our digital sign installed in the
That
next
one
week or
too.
so.
Oh, wow.
The other ones around the road?
Is it connected?
yet.
No, I
That'll
didn't
be
think
for
so.
next year's
So
program.
would the sizes be specific for children, for adults? Can you be more specific about it?
So I think we can be, so it's for all, because homelessness is not just adults, so it's just for anyone. And to kind of piggyback on what Amy just said about starting the coat drive here, I had some wonderful volunteers when we did the fill a bus. Conquerors for Christ Church have graciously volunteered to do, thank you for putting me in contact with them, to do also coats, hats and gloves and toiletry items, not just for our homeless community, but also for our schools too. So they're going to start doing a drive for us also. So it's any sizes. So if you want to donate, if you have something, please do all sizes.
Actually, I do. I have about 6 pairs of gloves for
Oh,
my
please,
sister.
thank you.
For my sister, so I'll be able to. It's just sitting on my desk. Well, the other desk.
Yeah, other
One
desk.
of the other desks that I have. It's just sitting there wondering what to do.
You gonna find it over there? You gonna be able to find it in the
Yeah.
desk?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Just found a home for it.
Yeah, definitely. We probably can give those to the first responders for now, because I know,
Is there a date before, start and end date for this, or what?
So we've actually already started.
Right.
It just kind of happened.
Yep.
We have not set an end date. To be honest, this is ongoing. We're hoping to have some sort of a closet, so we can store larger items at the Council on Aging, but I do need to make sure that the first responders have access to it. So they will most likely have some sort of a closet, hopefully at the police station, where the officers can, grab it as needed. The wonderful thing about this code drive is it's going to go right back into the community. So,
Kyle, is that realistic to get the sign, the billboard signs out?
Oh, absolutely, that won't be a problem whatsoever.
Yeah, maybe you could check that out, because they're really effective, people. You put them in 2 or 3 places, the message gets out pretty quick, so great. If you could coordinate, that'd be great.
sure, thank you.
Wonderful.
Unless it has to do with traffic, then nobody pays attention.
Oh, boy.
people can be really
Please
generous.
stop in the
Yeah, this
middle
is
of
a
the
really
intersection.
giving community, so.
Okay, anything else we can do for you?
No, I think,
Not yet.
we're good now.
Keep the scarf on, too, it's okay.
Before you go, Amy, I just wanted to thank and congratulate the COA on their COA After Dark. It was another rousing success. 4 buses of our population. I'm not going to say
Go
elderly
ahead, admit it,
because I was
Sean.
there too.
You were there.
And yeah, I know I was there. The volunteers, the volunteers for that night, especially the bus drivers.
Drivers.
It was a great time. So it was, and I think people look forward to it again for next year. So
Yeah, and that's a testament to the community as well, because they're providing the atmosphere that we're bringing, for them to view, so.
right, and
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I think at some point in time, the Griswolds live in town. Because, I mean, some of these homes that are decorated just absolutely,
Yeah.
like, mind-blowing. And then, you have the Botellos on Azalea Drive, you have the Botellos over in Meadowwood that do that, and then you have other people. And then the last stop of the night was that house in Westport. And that's just way over the top.
Really? I
it's
haven't
just-
seen that one.
That's just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes, Christmas Vacation, the Griswolds, just like,
We do have a copy of the route, if anybody is looking, just reach out on Facebook or give us a
It's been
call.
already posted on Facebook several times, so.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it was a nice trip.
good. I'm
And the
glad you
weather
enjoyed
held
it.
out, which was
It
even
was a
better.
beautiful night.
Yep.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the resource fair that Amy and Dolores put on today. I attended it. There's a lot of agencies that attended also that provide a lot of services to the public.
They do.
The fair was amazing. We talk a lot internally, and Amy and Dolores came together. We formed this outreach team that, is really focused on providing services to the public, the residents of Dartmouth. It started with homeless, but there's a lot of people that need a lot of services. The fair was great. There's a lot of agencies out there. It can be confusing because there's so many agencies trying to provide so many services. So our community outreach team is trying to kind of consolidate that to make it more of a one-stop stop. I urge anybody, everyone knows somebody in need, and when these resource fairs happen again, I urge everyone to stop in and just see what's out there so they can send the message out to people they know that are in need. And because there's a lot to offer, it's hard to connect. Everyone's trying to do their best. The agencies there today were great, so thanks to Amy and Dolores for pulling that together. It's not easy, but the people there are really dedicated, just like you are. So I think
We
they
also
need
have,
to be-
we have to give credit to Matt Dancero, the Council on Aging Outreach Coordinator.
He was phenomenal.
He was phenomenal. He used all of his contacts with these agencies, most of them out of New Bedford, some out of Fall River, and each individual agency was absolutely thrilled that Dartmouth had invited them into town.
Yes.
They said it was kind of the
think
first
it's
time that they've
also-
ever been here. They were,
And they look forward to
yeah,
coming
they look
back
forward
again.
to coming back.
It's also important to realize this is the first time you had it.
Yes.
And we can always educate and advertise more with more advanced time for another one.
This was put together within a month's time.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Than that,
So
probably,
really,
yeah.
you know, I'm thankful to every single department that has added to this group.
Yeah, the Board of Health definitely.
The
too.
Board of
So
Health,
It was
yeah.
just, it was a collaborative effort by all of us.
Wonderful.
And we know, like, moving forward, definitely, you know, we would definitely plan for it so that we can do more outreach and more advertising. We just wanted to get something before the holidays to kind of get it out there. It's like, hey, Dartmouth, our doors are open. We welcome all of the agencies and resources here so that we can collaborate to help families.
Well,
here.
come to us early on so we can help you get the word out and do that sort of thing.
I will.
too.
You know I
Okay.
know your number.
Okay,
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, moving right along. We have the DPW CDL part-time plow operators plan. It looks like we have, speaking of DPW,
While they're coming up, I'll give a little background. So, you know,
The director's gonna drive the plow?
he is, well, probably. You know, we've had an issue with just staff turnover in general across all departments. One department that's been hit relatively hard is the DPW, the HMEOs, which are the CDL drivers that drive the trucks. In order to, so, you know, there's everyone sees the signs all over the state when they're driving around. All communities are looking for plow drivers in one form or fashion or the other. The state has increased, you know, what they're paying for these truck drivers, so, you know, people are going in that direction. So we've met internally with Denise, the HR director, and Tim, and you know, what can we do in the short term and long term to help alleviate this situation in town? And we've come up with a plan that we'll have Tim present, but I just wanted to give some background on that, so.
All right, so, you know, there are options. You can try to hire commercial companies to plow for you with their trucks, but, you know, the state and other towns that don't have drivers are also looking for those. I know the town of Acushnet is advertising to pay $5 more per hour than the state, and with added bonuses. But we're looking, you know, we're currently short 7 drivers. We lost 4 who went to work for Mass DOT recently. So we you know, we have the equipment, we have the trucks. So if we can get some on-call part-time drivers in to drive our trucks, and we looked at wages, and I think Denise and Sean came up with $50 per hour. So I think we'd be able to get a good amount of drivers for that. You know, if we found 4, 5 drivers, I think we'd be in really good shape. And we've already had just verbally had about 4 or 5 people that were interested in town that have CDLs, currently have their health cards, and you know, they don't work as much during the winter with construction. So
Yeah, please.
It's a good deal.
Let's do it.
Yeah. What about, just concerned, they're operating our equipment, so what about insurance?
Our insurance covers them. They'd be part-time employees.
Okay, all right, great.
Do you need a motion from the,
Yes.
make the motion that we approve as
Second.
presented?
any, as presented, do we need to read the details of it?
No, so Denise had gone and done research with other communities are paying for drivers, both with their, you know, both private with their own vehicles, contracted just with companies. So she's pulled all that information together just to show you that, you know, she's done a lot of legwork to find out, working with him, what an appropriate rate would be to find good employees that would be on-call and reliable. And we feel that the $50 per hour while using a town vehicle would be an excellent option.
That's fine.
Okay, and it's stated here, the details are here in the agenda, which we'll
Yes.
post. Okay. We had a motion and a second as well? Mm-hmm. Any discussion or comments from anybody?
None.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? I'm retired. I got a little SUV. Do I qualify to apply?
You have a CDL?
Yeah, some dead end roads, I guess.
No, no.
You have a
I'm a
CDL?
good driver, though. No, I'm a good driver.
No.
Not a
Do
good
you have a
driver,
CDL?
that's the problem.
I get it. Where do you get it? Okay.
Big value.
Yeah. All right. Can't do that either. Okay.
Right.
We all set? Tim, anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, that's great.
Okay, we're getting to some other issues, but that one is is all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to do a quick skip. We're going to go down to the moderator appointment to Finance Director Search Committee.
Yes, so the moderator has informed me that she is appointing Gloria Bancroft to be on the Finance Director Search Committee. She informed me via text, so she's going to put something in writing, but I wanted to put it on the agenda soon so we could have, put the committee together to start the search.
Great.
Okay. We don't need a vote or comment on that,
Nope.
do we? Not yet.
You just need to vote to approve Gloria to be.
It's
Make a
official.
motion to approve.
Right. Second.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none? Great choice, Gloria. Thank you, Gloria, for stepping forward. We'll quickly go through license renewals, and we'll save the DEP for right after that. So, we back up to the top. Is that where it is, Sean?
Right.
Yeah, first page. You got the in-holder license first.
You gotta
Page
read
one.
about the fire chief and the police chief.
Okay. These are all subject to police chief, fire chief, and director of inspectional services approval. In-holder license, Regency Inn and Suites, Best Western, and Residence Inn.
So moved.
To approve.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, I hear none. Motor agent, Class 1, Colonial South Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Colonial Imports South Inc., Dartmouth Nissan, JEM Motorsports, Kia of Dartmouth, and Minuteman Harley Davidson.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None? Okay. Class 2, American Auto Exports, APC Auto Body, Bliss Express, Inc., Brum's Ultimate Repair, Dartmouth Street Auto Sales, Dartmouth Collision, Dartmouth Gas and Service, Dartmouth Motor Auto Sales, FM Auto Sales, Ideal Motors, JD Byrider, Joey's Auto Sales, Mike's Auto 2 LLC, Route 6 Auto, and Tom's Auto Sales.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Please
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, I hear none. That one passes. Class 3, Acme Auto Salvage, Brum's Auto Ultimate Repair, Gabriel's Auto Parts, Richie's Auto Sales, Sylvia's Auto Parts, Inc., and Will's Auto Wrecking.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Opposed, I hear none. That one also passes unanimously.
Mr. McGinnis, is this all of the applications, or is there any still some outstanding?
For the motor agents?
Vehicles, yeah.
I'll have to check with Melanie, but I think it's all of them. I'm not sure. I'll
think it's
double
all
check
of
and
them.
get back to you.
I think there's one or two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're not
You
gonna,
want- you
we're
wanna
not
do
gonna
this,
be able to
Tom?
vote on it.
No.
Yes, okay. All right. Thank you. We're done with that. We're going to go back to the last and most important issue of the day would be the DEP Title V response update and public meeting. Okay. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, so I asked Mr. Michaud to come in and give an update to the board on the DEP Title V proposed changes. He's been working closely with both DEP and our state rep, and he's in the internal staff. He's gone to the public meetings. He's held the public meetings here in town, but also gone to public meetings in other communities. The last time the board met on this topic, they asked Mr. Michaud to come back and give an update. There's been some changes since the last meeting, so he can go over those. And we also have a letter that Mark Garrett, our Environmental Affairs Coordinator, has drafted that's in your packet, also voicing concerns with the proposed changes. So
I just would like to say, this is December 19th, which is a week before the holidays. And generally, you would not have a meeting like this because it's the holidays. People are busy and they're not paying attention, or they're just, not many issues come up. This is way too important. as a board, we felt this was critically important to keep this in front of us, keep the experts involved, and make sure that that our residents understand that this is a very, very important issue. So that's why it's on the agenda for today. Mr. Michaud.
Thank you. Christopher Michaud, Director of Public Health for the town of Dartmouth. So, thank you. Sorry to be the Grinch before Christmas. I even dressed in green, so.
At least you didn't have a 49er scarf on.
Yeah, really.
So,
The Kansas City Chiefs.
I've talked a lot about this, and a lot of people are already well aware, but surprisingly, I run into people on almost a daily basis that are well within these watersheds that are unaware of this. They think because when they hear the Slocum River watershed, that the Slocum River watershed means those people that are seaside or waterside. I talked to one individual who lives at a major tributary or contributory watercourse to the Westport River watershed, and they were unaware as well. And they have readily seen me throughout this process. So, you know, it goes back to some of the things that this board has said about how disturbing the way in which DEP has kind of gone about this, putting it in between the holidays, keeping records so secret, keeping the individuals' names and their affiliates so secret. And then also, really not explaining to the public at hand how these regulations are going to impact your properties. So not only those people in Fall River and Freetown and Dartmouth that will be impacted by this that are even up on Quantapug Road near our landfill, but also those other communities that may be looked at this point in time outside of Dartmouth that don't have an impaired status, that may have a scientific report that will possibly determine impairment and trigger these regulations. So, you know, anyone that's listening tonight that's interested after what I just said, I encourage you to contact the Board of Health. We're happy to talk you about these regulations, how to find out, and what the basic principles are, and to find all those resources that we have online. I continue to search for records from Mass DEP. Today, I put in the mail a check for $1,275 for additional records for the Nitrogen Sensitive Areas Subcommittee. A week ago, I asked if we could possibly pay by credit card because of the complexities of municipal government that are governed by the state of Massachusetts, and the individual from Mass DEP said, "I'll call you back." They didn't. They continue to be a snake with providing their records. I made a records request to them on August 30th, asking who was on the NSA, how did you go about selecting these candidates? I had to file 2 separate appeals to the Secretary of State to finally get those records on December 7th. About 20 or 30 or so emails, 2 Excel spreadsheets, over 3 months, 2 requests. They were trying to run out the clock. They did not want the public knowing who was on the NSA subcommittee while the comment period was open. I now know. Association to Preserve Cape Cod, a large engineering company. Another activist, Pleasant Bay Alliance, another engineering company that's very large. Some of these large engineering companies will be doing these watershed permits. Mass Audubon, another large engineering company. Senator Jillian Sear, a large real estate development association. Buzzards Bay Coalition, 2 more activists. Mass Association of Realtors, another large engineering company. Again, 2 members from the Commercial Real Estate Development Association, Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, and the Cape Cod Commission, followed by 12 employees from Mass DEP. Not a single municipality was selected. One of the records that I found from Mass DEP said, back in July of 2020, do you think we should reach out to MMA, Mass Municipal Association, on something this impacting? What was also interesting was, before they actually met with this very lopsided subcommittee, completely absent the people who will get the dirt under their fingernails with these regulations, whether it be the municipal government and or the people, the taxpayer with the bills, whether it be higher tax bills or having to pay for these innovative alternative septic systems, they had a very common sense approach, much like we do with automobiles, a phase-out approach. Once this group met, they spun on a dime. Now, I want to play a couple sound bites for you from an individual who I will name later. This was on a public domain from a meeting in Falmouth that occurred not too long ago to try to win over support on these proposed regulations.
I would say, you know, the thing about the DEP regs is that they actually don't want the 5-year IA requirement to go into effect. It's really a way to change the dynamic between the voter and the town officials, which historically has been, town comes up with a big wastewater infrastructure bill, people in town go, yeah, we don't want to pay that, go pound sand, and nothing happens. The idea here is by imposing a burden on the individual homeowner to incur an expense in their backyard that can be waived by the town stepping forward and saying we will be the responsible entity and put ourselves in a voluntary permit that binds us to implementing nitrogen limitations on a schedule to which we are not currently being held. The town can absolve the individual homeowner of their individual burden. And so, frankly, it's politics at the local level that it's trying to change to encourage people from being individual.
So DEP is trying to embed themselves in local politics with these proposed regulations by creating a first option, which is vile. It's a burden, as he puts it, on the people. Now, what he doesn't say is that when you look at the individual watersheds and the uniquenesses of some of these watersheds, because this isn't just Cape Cod, this is also southeastern Massachusetts, sewering may not be an option. The watershed permit is going to require the local to make the decision on where else we're going to get nitrogen from. Well, where else are we going to get nitrogen from in Dartmouth for a removal? Agriculture is a protected practice in Massachusetts. Where else are we going to get it from? The state, in the meantime, is filling our watershed with organics, which is resulting in uncontrolled discharges to the environment, and they're not permitting them with groundwater discharge permit regulations. So we're going to inevitably have to look in remote areas to possibly having to do IA systems. So it is untrue. There is nothing in the 314 CMR 21 regulations that are being proposed that say if the town does a watershed permit and it cannot sewer, thou shall be waived from the IA upgrade requirement. And what he doesn't say is that during the terms of that permit, if the permit is subject to modification because we're not meeting the ideals in the removals, because the hydrology of the watershed is far more complex than the models of the science theorizes, then we may have to make additional choices on where we're going to get nitrogen removal from. Now, I want to play another soundbite for you from the same individual.
That you can convert 120-something odd thousand septic systems across Barnstable County in a 5-year period, nor does anybody who really knows anything think that that actually solves your problem. So, sure, is that do we want that? No. But you tell me, I'm waiting to hear the better idea to get towns to move forward. Thomas?
So first he says that the option one is an insane person's option. Then he says that it won't work. And he says that even if you do it, it won't work. I'll disclose this individual's name. His name is Andrew Gottlieb. He was on the Nitrogen Sensitive Area Subcommittee representing the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, who had a hand in the crafting of these regulations. I also want to play this.
For 20-odd years. And I was at DEP the last time we did Title V regulation revisions, this code that Scott mentioned that went into effect in 95. It's been 28 years since the code has been upgraded. And the code, as I said earlier, has created the situation that we're trying to restore and recover from now. And everybody's known that the code was inadequate from the day it was put in place.
So he was with DEP in 1995 when they changed the regulations. And he admits that DEP knew in 1995 that the regulations were inadequate. Yet the commissioner writes this past summer that we have to do this in a timely manner. The person on the NSA subcommittee was with DEP and had his chance to change it. And now he comes up with a strategy on how to change it by creating an environment in which politics will come into play and we'll have to get into this permit. And then he tries to further sell it by not stating that there is an exemption. There is no exemption. IA approvals will be part of many, if not all, watershed plans. I just don't see how, especially here on the South Coast, the cost-benefit analysis of sewering versus IA systems is going to be extraordinary. So, you know, in listening to those sound bites, I can't believe this process can continue. To me, this is, when you look at the composition of this NSA subcommittee, you listen to the statements made by this former DEP official who sat on this subcommittee, who's even had the audacity to say at public hearings to DEP, don't listen to the noise of the opposition. He had his chance. And he's telling DEP, his former colleagues, don't listen to the noise of the opposition. How arrogant. So, you know, I just want to close with that because, you know, I don't know what more we can do. DEP, as, you know, someone once said when we were dealing with the Smith-Robinson issue, it was an incestuous organization. And I think this once more points to the incestuousness of the organization with special interest that has completely left us out of a valuable part of the deliberatory process to come up with something that works in the municipalities. So, you know, that's really,
could you comment on the response letter that we got back?
Is the response letter from where?
From DEP.
No, we haven't.
Extension.
No, this is, we've drafted a letter from...
No, the extension.
Extension.
Oh, the extension.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they gave the
Just
extension.
for public knowledge, could you just briefly...
So the extension, it's great that more people have an opportunity to learn about these proposed regulations and to familiarize themselves with what it's going to mean to themselves and or their community. Even if you're on a property with sewer, this may impact you. The watershed permit has a burden on the town, which is the taxpayer. So everyone has a chance to, you know, familiarize themselves, but don't be encouraged that this delay means that we have an opportunity to kind of, you know, negotiate changes with them. We are in a structured regulatory channel right now, and that channel is the draft regulations are behind us. The public comment period is ongoing. They may have some more public comments. They're going to have some salesmanship informational sessions. But the only thing that can happen is either these regulations promulgate, they undergo some minor changes that are not substantive, or they completely derail. So, you know, I'm 18 pages in on the letter for the health department, 34 exhibits. I'm not done. The deeper I get, the more disturbed I get. And then I hear this late this afternoon from Mr. Gottlieb, who was on the committee. I can't think of a better reason for elected officials to ask for a complete redo of this. This is bad bad government. We can do better as a Commonwealth, and as I write with my 34 exhibits from their records, and we await others, this is a dysfunctional agency that has been negligent in the protection of the Commonwealth's waters, especially here in Dartmouth. And I have the exhibits and the facts to say that so strongly. Thank you.
John?
Chris, there was a meeting in Falmouth last week, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
There's been a number of meetings, and I don't know if this...
The one that nobody was invited to except, I guess, certain people, but you still went, I think?
I'm not familiar with that meeting.
They had a few people they invited, very small audience, and no other participation, and not one invitation, not one South Coast, either select boards or Board of Health that represented South Coast at all. Just quietly trying to go along their way, and they're trying to pit the residents against the towns.
Yeah, I haven't heard one person...
Doing a damn good job of it right now.
I haven't heard one person say, this is nonsense. We want a dirty river. We don't need to clean up the river. The problem is how we get there.
Nasty.
Money makes the world go round. And, one thing I heard recently was, just pass the regs. The money will come later. I think back to my mother and my school teachers telling me, don't get in a van with when a stranger offers you candy.
Basically. Can I just ask, just one question? Maybe you can answer it, maybe Mark can answer it, but I thought we were partners with the Buzzards Bay Coalition. Why didn't they come to us and say that this is what was coming down the pike?
I don't know.
Because to be honest with you, looking forward with the relationship to Buzzards Bay Coalition and the town of Dartmouth, I'm not really happy about it.
John, I actually called him just before I left, and he returned my call, and I'm going to be on the phone with him tomorrow. That's a question I'm going to ask him.
Yeah. And that's what's rotten in all of this is that Mr. Gottlieb clearly mentions an intent to get into the local political arena to drive his objective. And it's going to tear these communities apart because we've had productive relationships with Buzzards Bay coalitions in the past. And, we're going to be blaming golf courses and farmers and septic systems and everything else. We're going to bring the level of everything that's rotten about, national politics right down here into the town hall where we still all get along. And that's just awful.
Well, I got one thing to say, to Mr. Gottlieb. Be careful what you wish for, because this community is not going to stand by and just let some agency that just basically is, for all intents and purposes, just a sewer pit of of incompetence, to be polite. I have to be polite up here.
We have,
it's not going to happen. And I don't profess to know everything about here, what's going on. I'm learning on a daily basis, and I see how you're doing this. If there's not a wanted poster in DEP of Chris Michaud somewhere up in the line, I would be extremely surprised if it's not. I mean, I just don't. My knee-jerk reaction right now is to get legal counsel involved, and I don't. We've had that conversation, and right now, legal counsel doesn't see we're at that point yet. I think we're getting close, but I think that if there's going to be any kind of legal action, that it has to be a combined legal action. It can't be just Dartmouth out on the ledge. Dartmouth has to be joined with Westport. Dartmouth has to be joined with New Bedford, Fairhaven, Marion, Mattapoisett, everywhere, Cushnet, Freetown, we have to be in step with each other against this. This is the only way this is going to
be bankrupting to Falmouth. They've got some, dozen plus estuaries.
Right.
And, as I read through some of their comments and, some of the improvements that they made through their initiatives many years ago, they are not seeing the quantitative results as soon as they thought they would see them.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can understand that because you're talking about hundreds of years of not doing what we're doing now and expecting to clean it up or at least to get some kind of results after a few years. It's going to take time. But, you know, I just, wow. I mean, the biggest culprit here that's putting most of this crap in ours is Mass DEP by allowing these composting sites. But yet, oh, that's not us. Mea culpa. No. So let's blame it on the homeowner. Let's blame it on somebody who's got a septic system. Let's blame it on the golf course. But, oh no, we can't blame it on the farmer because that's protected. What about Mass DEP? What about the composting site on Fisher Road? That's probably majority of what's going on in the Slocum River. No. Oh, it's not us. It's not us.
Okay, we have,
So I just want to just mention one quick thing. Just to show some of the problems with, you know, the watershed permit process. They're looking at a Ponagansett right now. And I saw a statement out that said, you know, initial results are showing some level of impairment. And it's showing it on the east side. The Seward side. We only have a small number of homes in that watershed. And they're all on the west side. So, you know, if we don't do the permit, and I'm really getting out there way out into the future of this, but if we didn't do the permit, that would force those people to all upgrade to these systems that Mr. Gottlieb, who was on the committee, said won't work. It won't work. And if we do them, they still won't work because, you know, if we do the permit, it's coming from the Seward side. So it's not as easy as it sounds. And, you know, will New Bedford work with us if it's sourcing from New Bedford? This needs to start at the legislative level, not at DEP.
okay.
Thank you.
We have our best minds in town here. Mark wants to speak, and then we have people out who would like to speak, and we will call on you for sure. It's not an official public hearing, but you want to have the right to speak, so if you keep it under an hour, that'd be good. But, Mark?
Mark Garrett, Environmental Affairs Coordinator. I'm going to be very brief. And I want to speak to a couple of things that Mr. McDonald had asked about. I think the tenor of my letter was not to get into the weeds the way Chris has. But having been a practitioner in the environmental field for 40 years, I have clearly learned that there are advocates of the environment and there are practitioners of the environment, and those minds don't meet, okay? And I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I think that this is the first I heard of the breakdown of that NSA committee, and that was an advocacy-dominated committee. There were very few practitioners there. I do a lot of public speaking. The first thing human beings do when they wake up is they pollute. We're net negative before we've done anything. We go to the bathroom. That's the first thing we do. I'm not trying to be flip here, but that's the way it is. You have to do a couple of things to get back to even. And on a daily basis. We're talking about nitrogen, we're talking about bacteria. Advocates like to react and go for low-hanging fruit. We're writing new regulations. We have a host of regulations that need to be revised. My letter speaks to the Zoning Enabling Act, which is a state law, which drives every zoning bylaw in every community in this Commonwealth. Problem is, agriculture is exempt, and they haven't ciphered down the definition of agriculture. Composting is now considered part of agriculture, and I agree wholeheartedly. We have uncontrolled, unconfined composting going on in this town and at several sites in our watersheds and pretty close to the major threads of our watersheds. And it's easy to go after the residents because they're an easy target. And I think that I would ask, I certainly put myself out on a limb, and I feel very comfortable in doing it, that if this board is generating a letter or some sort of response, it should be geared to the bigger picture. I don't think that, new septic systems are going to drastically or dramatically change the current situation. I think there are land use practices that happen all over that need to be addressed. And to speak a little bit about the Cape versus the South Coast, and I said this to Mr. Almy earlier, and I said it in my letter, SAS systems, septic systems, are pretty constant in how they function, theoretically. But they vary in the geologic setting that they're placed. Cape Cod is a pile of sand. I own property on Cape Cod. I know what happens. I know the porosity of the Cape. It's not the same as the glacial tills that are in Dartmouth. Much tighter, different. So the one fix for everybody is not necessarily the right way to go. It may be, and I underscore maybe because I haven't studied it may be right for the Cape. It may be right for other places that have sandy, porous geology. But in areas where you have tighter geology, water's running over the geology, not through the geology. And I think that you have to look at it in a more global manner if you're really trying to address the problem. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about you, but having people like Mr. Garrett and Mr. Michaud behind us leading the charge is, and all you have to do, look back 2 years back in our COVID experience, and our town did one incredible job fighting it, and these are the leaders that helped do it. So with that being said, anybody wants to start, go right ahead.
I'm going to be very short.
That's okay. Just go right up to the microphone and let us know who you are. It's kind of an unofficial, it's not a public
My name's
meeting.
Mike Dallio. I'm a resident, retired from the construction and development industry. I found out about this through a couple of phone calls. I didn't realize what it was until I started researching it, and I came to an informational meeting last week that Chris gave. I only want to speak to the impact that it's going to have to the residents of this town. Because I was a senior manager. I spent a lot of time estimating and whatnot. They don't know what these systems cost. They have no idea. I'm estimating it's going to be around $30,000 average. Some will be less, some will be more. In my case, it'll probably cost $150,000. But if you take 2,000 systems in our town and average that at $30,000 a system, that's $60 million of equity that is being taken out of the citizens and the residents in this town. That is a huge number, and when the people need to know this, because this is going to cause an uprise. This is going to be not good. People need to be aware of what the state is trying to do. And that's all I have to say, because there are experts here that can talk to how faulty and how bad this proposed regulation is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can we go right down the line in the back? Anybody else?
My name is Chris Fay. I'm a resident of Dartmouth. Spoken to a few of you folks.
Right in the microphone.
Mr. Chairman, I've spoken to you over the course of the last couple of weeks. Thank you for your time. I'm a licensed professional civil engineer by trade. My area of expertise is in transportation and traffic engineering, but I do have an educational component on the environmental engineering side of things, the concentration in hydrology and water resources along with geotechnical engineering. So I know a little bit about soils and groundwater, which kind of allows me to understand this issue a little bit more in detail than the average person. And we have a significantly lacking awareness of the public in town and in the region. I'm speaking to a lot of folks out there. Digesting this whole process that's played out so far, and from the research I put into it, as well as attending some of the public hearings that have been occurring for public information, as well as public comment, I find it to be nothing less than scandalous that Dartmouth and other affected communities on the South Coast were not given a seat at the table. This has been a very non-transparent process that lacks any stakeholder engagement on the municipal level. That's just not the way government should work. At this point, I really have to say that I've lost faith in Mass DEP's ability to function without increased oversight when it relates to wastewater. I'll be calling on the Mass Legislature to investigate Mass DEP's procedural failures during this important regulatory process and have a public hearing where the public can hear testimony from Mass DEP leadership who should answer clearly for allowing such a flawed process to proceed while being asleep at the helm for at least 20 years, when they've been tasked with being the stewards of clean air, water, and land for the Commonwealth. They've known about this issue for a long time, but they've failed to complete their mission, and they're now in a reactive posture in response to a lawsuit by the Conservation Law Foundation. I'd like to see the town leadership support such an inquiry. The 6-week time extension for public comments that the DEP has provided is disingenuous. DEP is simply not acknowledging the shortcomings of this process and how weighted it was towards Cape Cod conditions versus here on the South Coast. And I'll go back to the geological discussion that just happened on that. Additionally, they haven't acknowledged the shortcomings of how the NSA subcommittee was comprised and selected and why it was so secret. There's also, again, no lack of acknowledgement about the lack of stakeholder engagement. And really, the entire process should be derailed and put on indefinite hold until we can look at this objectively from a local perspective and not from the Cape Cod's perspective or the one-size-fits-all approach that they desire. I've been at a couple, at least one in-person meeting, the one down in Barnstable for public comment, and I watched the recording partially at least of Lakeville and attended the Zoom-only meeting. And not once have I seen any of these folks that are on the NSA subcommittee declare that they are on the subcommittee. That non-transparency, continued right up until they had their chance at the microphone providing comment. Some have tried to sway public opinion by saying the public should avoid the noise. And that's from the opposition, folks that care about how this ginormous course is going to be covered. So Dartmouth taxpayers' voice in this critical issue has been pretty much pegged as noise to these folks. That's wrong. The timing of these critical public hearings is also very suspect, being held at a difficult time of year when people's focus is on the holidays, wrapping up year-end needs, and it's really garnered very little press up until the last few weeks. I've read this myself. I'm a news junkie, and I didn't see anything about it until the beginning of November, when it was in Dartmouth Today, and then there was an article that I'd missed earlier on in the summer. It's great to see that from a town-level newspaper, but the local regional press with a little bit further reach, it was not on anyone's radar.
And it was a bad story to begin with, too.
Absolutely, and it's a very technical story. The word septic, people don't want to go there. It's not an attention grabber. But when you put things into a macro perspective, like the gentleman that was just up here, 2,000 septic systems in town, say it's a minimum 35,000 per system, and that's the minimum, that's $70 million. Taking that kind of money out of the local economy when we're on the cusp of a major recession, or some may say we're already in that recession, while we're also in a time of once-in-a-generation inflation that's impacting our residents across all income levels. We're seeing major increases in the price of energy. A lot of these systems would be mechanical. They would require an energized component to them, as well as a lot more than just pumping your septic system every year or two. You're going to need a wastewater operator. You're looking at a large reoccurring bill. We have a lot of folks that are going to be on fixed incomes and retirees that would be impacted by this. Really feel strongly that it needs to be really strongly considered as part of the process to do right by all the citizens involved. One public comment that's been made in response to that for those with low income or fixed incomes was these seniors or whatnot should be looking into reverse mortgages.
I remember that.
I find that to be appalling. You know, to make a statement like that, this is an unfunded, this is essentially taxation without representation. We need a legislative component to this, and that's where Mr. Michaud had said stopping this at the legislative level is where this needs to go. Our neighbors in Westport, they've already been incorporating some of these IA systems on a proactive basis for failed systems or new construction. And that's great, but there's no performance criteria that is relegated to those systems. So there may be a few different systems in play that have different efficacies to them. And DEP, there was a slide that was just, it floored me, looking at this slide in one of the public presentations by Mr. Michaud that said, quote unquote, with current technology, it appears that the use of IA systems alone would not meet the required nitrogen reductions. That ambiguous statement undermines any credibility in this process. I come from the engineering and science side of things, and to make such a statement like that, that you know that the solution that you're proposing doesn't address the problem, you're asking people to outlay a considerable amount of money with no guaranteed return on that investment. It's crazy. So Mass DEP says they want to see a timely action on reducing nitrogen. However, the nitrogen-rich runoff from agricultural and the Mass DEP deregulated for-profit composting facilities are not targeted to share any of this burden. And these entities are major contributors. We love our farms around here. We love our farmers, but they've got skin in the game, and certainly these for-profit composting facilities do as well. They do have opportunities to have on-site wastewater treatment. Again, they have skin in this game. New Bedford CSO, I could go on for a while about that, but they've got no skin in this game as well. You know, there's an enormous amount of nitrogen coming out of the CSO discharge in Clark's Cove, CSO number 3. The first public comment meeting on 11/30, 920,000 gallons of untreated CSO and wastewater coming out of the outfall in Clark's Cove. We had another 1.4 million gallons just 2 weeks ago. This past Friday, it was 600,000 gallons. Fall River and Providence have been mandated by the feds to install an underground CSO tunnel network. It acts as a labyrinth of tunnels such that we can have an underground reservoir for the combined sewer from homes and businesses along with stormwater that could be stored in these underground tunnel systems and trickled into the treatment plant at the rate in which the plant can treat that, so that you're not bypassing the plant due to such a volume of water. Why hasn't New Bedford gone down that track yet? You know, and that's something DEP, I believe they're on a consent decree. It's just not enough. You know, I'm a fisherman, recreationally. I go out of Padenarum. I have to avoid my home port on days after major rainfall events. I don't want to bring fish home to my dinner plate for my family that's caught in these waters, and that's shameful. So, you know, the CSO issue, the multiple contributors from the agricultural and composting facilities, that needs to be in play. We've got local impacts here that extend to municipal-owned buildings. Fire District Number 2, out on Russell's Mill Road. Been a lot of upgrades on that building and that property in the last few years. That's on septic system. I believe we also have a town library that's going to be in play on somewhere in that general area as well in terms of being on septic. So we've got a long way to go in terms of increasing awareness on this critical issue. It's very time sensitive, as been acknowledged by the board and others that have been speaking to this. And we've really got to posture the town against these regulations. I'd like the town to strongly consider sending out a mailer to better inform citizens and get them more engaged. To date, we've really lacked considerable turnout at the meeting at the middle school, the high school. We had a packed room here last week, 40 people or so, and I know we've got people tuning in on these events through DCTV. But more and more people I talk to about it in the Westport and Dartmouth area, they're unaware of this. And this is such a huge issue that impacts all of us. I'd encourage a regional roundtable discussion, as was mentioned earlier, with other towns and cities, the select boards, the town administrators, Concom, Board of Health, build a coalition. We can have strength in numbers with our neighboring communities, but it's definitely going to require stakeholder engagement quickly, sooner than later. We need more common sense solutions. And the town is probably going to end up needing to hire its own consultant to look at this issue objectively from a local level versus the one-size-fits-all in the Cape. And again, that takes into account geology as well as the nitrogen contributors that we have here. I know, Mr. McDonald, you mentioned legal counsel. I really feel, being in the engineering business and knowing where these regulations are going, I would strongly encourage that legal counsel be engaged immediately on this matter. Once these regulations are promulgated, the town will really be behind the 8 ball. At first, I thought we needed to really decouple the South Coast from the state. But the more I dig into this, hearing those sound bites tonight, just knowing how flawed this process, how deeply flawed this process has been, this process needs to be derailed. And they need to start back with local stakeholder engagement, figuring out more common sense solutions. So I believe we're going to have one more town informational meeting that Mr. Michaud will be running in January, and that will be, I think, around the time once we hear the new pitch from DEP after hearing, after having these delays experienced in the process. I'd really like to see members of the select board there, the town administrator, Representative Markey, I know, has shown up to at least one of the meetings. Mr. Tattlebaum, I know you were there at one of the meetings as well. Really appreciated your words and support. I'd like to see Rep. Markey and Senator Montigny there. This is something where we really need leadership on the local and regional level, including our delegation, to come to the meeting and speak to the people. I respect the forum of the select board, but when the subject matter is getting in more depth at these presentations, I just think that it's going to take a whole of government approach. And I'd also like to, I know I'll be writing a pretty extensive letter to DEP with some comments. I've been trying to spread awareness to my neighbors and friends in town. I really think the power of the pen is important here, getting individual letters out from folks. A petition is probably not the way to go. I could have 18 signatories in my neighborhood, but encouraging folks to put their thoughts and feelings on paper. Some folks aren't going to be able to speak to this at a technical level, and that's understood. But encouraging residents as well as our town leaders to come together on this with a massive letter writing campaign to really let this regulatory authority know where we stand as a town and where we stand as citizens, and that we should be opposed to this deeply flawed process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Elming? No. No one so far, unless someone's changed their mind.
Rob Almy, I'm the chair of the Public Works Board. I guess I'm bad at cleanup, so I'll be short. First, I don't know whether you've had a chance to thank Senator Montigny and Representative Markey for their letter, but if you haven't, please, on behalf of all of us, thank them. Second, I thought I don't know if I can do this, I'll try. My good wife, through our church, visits a handicapped retired school teacher on a regular basis. He lives on a 1-acre lot in a house that he built in 1983. He's on a septic system. There is no way that he could pay for an upgrade. There's no need for an upgrade because of the size and location of his lot. This is the kind of person that's been swept up into this nonsense. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
It's a rude awakening,
Such
to say the least.
Eloquent spoken here tonight. And we have any comment on the legal aspect at this point in time?
Yes, right now this is a political issue with DEP, and our individual town council does not have any effect on their policy making. It's more of a political issue, so we're working with our state rep and state senator. So it's not that they are not desirable to make changes, particularly as they live in town. But you know, I've had communications with him on this issue, and right now it is there's nothing a town council can provide outside of talking to our state rep and senator.
Well, I once again, I think that Mr. Savastano has a history of success in town, and I think that we, like others that are here, you've heard, we have to trust in the great people we have here to, when the time comes, it'll be right. And Chris, I know that your message is loud and clear as well regarding the legal aspect, but Anthony's been an incredibly valuable asset to the town. He makes the right calls at the right time, and we'll keep the faith in that one. But your comment all along is well-founded and certainly going to be part of the process as far as the legal aspect of it's concerned. Mr. McDonald.
Yeah. Few things.
Yes.
Number one, I know, I forgot your name. Christopher. Okay. I know Christopher said that a petition generally doesn't work, but a petition does bring some awareness. So I would like to see two things happen on the Engage Dartmouth portal. Number one, well, actually three things. Whatever information we can put up on the process of what's happened, let's get that on the portal. Second, to put up a petition so that the people can sign as a community. We need to show Mass DEP and the legislature as a community what this impact is going to be. And then let's also get some sample letters up there as to what individual homeowners can have. I'm not the greatest letter writer in the world. If you want me to write about, somebody owing rent or somebody doing something bad in their apartment, then yeah, I'm your person, because Patriots. I've got plenty of years of experience.
Patriots?
Yeah, that too.
Okay.
But, I think if we have 2, 3, maybe even 4 different types of letters, maybe Mr. Michaud, Mr. Garrett can come up with something so that people at home can use, and they can write out on their own and add their name to it, send it to Mass DEP. Maybe that'll also help. The other thing I'd like, and this is something that I think we can set up probably within at least the next 3 weeks, is to have a regional meeting somewhere, maybe at White's, maybe the Lakesider. Let's invite everyone in the area. Let's bring in select boards, city council members, even if we have to post a meeting, because there's going to be 3 of us there. Let's do that. Let's bring in conservation officers. Let's bring in Board of Health from all the areas, and let's have a regional sit down as to how we can address this on a regional level. I think sometime maybe, I believe they've extended the comments to the end of January. All right. They've caved in once. I'm still holding to what I originally said. I want to see it until June 30th, and I want to see these regulations not implemented until at least 2024. So I'm still holding to that, but I think we need to hold a regional meeting, and I think we need to get it done, and I think the best people to get that affected is, Mr. McGinnis, Mr. Michaud. I mean, if you need my help in doing that, let me know. I can make some phone calls to some people that I do know.
Comment there, Mr. Michaud?
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I think that's an excellent idea about trying to form a regional meeting. And it works best if we all reach out to our respective colleagues, boards of health, conservation, departments, and so on. So just a matter of selecting that date, let's try to get that going, because, I do believe there's going to be some significant impacts of this on towns that will present a cost, even with the watershed permit. Permit aside, it's going to be those local decisions that are going to drive added need for government service. I just wanted to mention one thing really quick on the, the letter. Because I get that from a lot of people. People feel like, how do I write a letter? I don't know what to write. I'm writing against this big bureaucratic organization. Some people even feel intimidated. I saw that in Barnstable, by these groups that are overwhelmed. They show up with their large constituent base, and they intimidate the person that, wants to get up and speak about their individual concerns with this proposal. Now is your time. This is your opportunity to speak. We all have uniquenesses within our own household. Do you need to put a roof on your house next year and replace your boiler or your oil tank? Hey, DEP, replacing an oil tank is something we need to do, and it's a good thing for the environment, because if the bottom breaches, which does happen, we end up with a monumental problem. Do your kids have tutoring? Do you have college bills, new driver bills? All these unique household expenses that those people that have to think with their wallet, unlike what Mr. Zenas Crocker said, who was an advocate for this from Barnstable, said, stop thinking with your wallet. He's a realtor that sells a $19 million house. Well, the people that, inland, money makes the world go round. And, we all face daily household financial challenges, long-term and short-term. And this is one that no one expected last year at this time for the cost of it. And then the annual cost of the operation and maintenance, if you are one that gets subjected to the innovative alternatives septic system requirement. And the only thing I want to just kind of close with on that is, so these composting facilities, they trust them. They do self-certifications and best practices. But if you have to put in an IA system at your house, no. You have to have a grade 2 wastewater treatment plant operator go and check on it and do testing of the effluent to make sure that you're operating your system in accordance with the disposal works permit. So why is it that we're going to revoke the permits from these people that we issued septic system disposal permits to, subject them to third-party oversight, annual reporting and testing, but yet a large for-profit entity operates under self-certification? That's crazy. And I think, Mr. Gottlieb said it. No one in their right mind would think this is going to work. We need to start over. Thank you.
I would, as far as the leadership is concerned, I think it's a great idea, and I think it unfortunately needs to be done in January, which is a terrible time to do it. But on the other hand, I think it might be useful if we contact the select boards of each town and the city of New Bedford, and hope and pray we get a response from New Bedford, because there's no more entity that's more harmful right now at this point in time than the
Don't
city
hold your breath.
in terms of Clark's Cove. But I'd let them send an individual or a group. We'd like to request maybe be members of the select board if they want to bring along people from the health department. But I think to get the ball rolling, because it is January, but we should have it no matter who shows up, and we'll see how important it is to them. Even Lakeville and Freetown, because they have lakes and rivers too.
I think we should just go. We should just go from border to border, because this is also going to affect
from Westport.
It's also going to affect Somerset too, correct? This is going to affect Somerset. It's going to affect Swansea. Let's just do it. We've got enough places in town to hold a meeting. We can go to White's or Westport if we have to. We can go to Lakeside.
Have a school. Okay.
Title V is the law of the land for Massachusetts. So this is going to go all the way to the western border, up to Vermont. You've got a lot of ponds out there. There's a lot of folks on septic.
There are 23 watersheds in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that covers 99.9% of the state.
People are certainly going to get an education on what a tributary is and how all these streams and rivers ultimately make their way, to the ocean and whatnot. So they start now because this started out as a Cape issue, but the lawsuit doesn't even involve the South Coast, really. This is a Cape issue that's let's just cast a wide net. So one of my points, could you share your thoughts on a mailer to go out to town residents because of this being so time critical? If DEP does not extend this deadline beyond January 30th, the window closes on public comment. I will tell you, based on the pulse that I have on this situation, it seems like the fix is in. This is all for show. Let's get your comments in. We'll consider them, but the fix is in on this. And I think that it'd be a worthwhile expenditure for the town to get people in the fold that are just outliers in this process right now and just don't have, any clue that it's going on, whether you're on sewer or septic. Perhaps a little bit of a visibility campaign too on Dartmouth's front page. I know that there's a little hyperlink off to the side, but keeping something almost front and center, locked on the top of the rolling news reports or anything that's coming out on the town website. But I do think, it's by snail mail, by sending like a mailer out, but I really think that that's the way to get the public's attention on this and to build momentum.
Yeah. Can we do, would this be something needed we can do for the reverse 911?
We could, if we'd have
least-
to
at
notify
least-
them of what we would want them to do.
They're not going to want to see it.
Right.
We also, have we sent out the tax bills yet?
That's going to be my.
The only thing I would caution.
Yes, yeah. We're asking, we can send notifications out with our tax bills.
Well, the only thing I would caution is that Mass General Law really is very specific on what we can send out in tax bills. It has to be non-biased. It has to be, let's say we were running like a fundraiser or something like that. So we'd have to really be careful on what we do send out.
Right, so if you can put in a, say, for further information on the new Title V regulations proposed by Mass DEP, please go to. That's pretty innocuous.
Yeah, we could also put in, well, not in the tax bill, but we could also send out a general. We have every address of every resident in town. We could send out a general mailer that wouldn't be in the tax bill. We wouldn't be any kind of violation of the Mass General Law, and we could just send it out that way.
That would be.
What about
We do it with like the water regs and things
To be
like
honest
that.
with you, at this point in time, I don't care about Mass General Law and violating it. Let them come after us, because we're gonna go after them.
When does the next water and sewer bill go out?
Well, we send out a notification. The water and sewer bills go out on costs, so we're sending out a commercial bill this week, and the residential bills are sent out in sections. So we'd have to do a mass mailing of every resident in town.
When are you doing
I would
that?
say that we do it. My recommendation would be, if you're going to do it, we do it via the tax file. The tax bills have already been sent out, but we use that file because people that are on water and sewer sometimes are not residents, where you have the resident file where we would
Is
touch
there nothing
most
else that we can piggyback on at this point in time?
not at this time, because the tax bills are already pretty much done and going to be mailed.
Yes, sir.
So I spoke with Michael Monahan, who's executive assistant to Senator Montigny, and
Speaking of the microphone there.
yeah, they can hear me. And he assured me that Mark is very much involved in this. He will send his response. If we need another letter, he'd be more than happy to do it. But better than that, I think I need to talk to him. They should come to a meeting like we're going to have.
Yeah. Well, what's
Both
a
of
good
them.
time to come?
And
It would be the regional meeting.
It'd be nice for Mark to be out there, besides Chris Markey.
And as far as the regional meeting goes, I would invite all the legislators and all the state senators in the same area, so that,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
let's have a party.
What time there, Christopher?
Yep, last bite at the apple, I promise. So, Board of Health has an excellent website and then almost a sub-website dedicated to this topic where they've aggregated, links to the recordings of all the previous town informational sessions, as well as some historical documentation, as well as the Concom letter, which was a really good, well-written letter as well. I think if the mailer is going to be done, really should definitely coincide with the last town informational meeting, because getting people, in the seats so they can see this presentation, I realize that this definitely requires folks to invest their time in a topic that it's really not a glorious topic, right? We're talking septic systems, but when we're talking about tens of millions of dollars in this town alone, I think that's where the point of emphasis needs to be made to try to get folks to turn out. I had one comment that I made at one of the informational sessions. If we were going to raise the price of a town trash bag by 50 cents to $1, you would have had standing room only in these auditoriums. Just to give you some context,
Sure.
This is so much of a bigger issue that has the potential to put people out of their homes and make Dartmouth less of an attractive place to live. And my family's in that boat too. We all have our own financial decisions that we have to make, but in the financial climate we're in and the economy, wrong time, wrong place.
I would like to have
bad regs.
An discussion, especially led by Mr. Michaud, regarding the mailer and what do you want to say on it? What's really the best time to do it, and then reserve the final decision based on that kind of inside information, because it's expensive, but more importantly, what's the most effective time to do it and get results back? And I don't think I have that answer yet myself, but.
Absolutely. Thanks again for all your time and your leadership on this issue. Appreciate it.
Mr. Michaud.
So just in the terms of timing for a last, town informational meeting, I believe it's around the 17th and the 18th that DEP will hold their informational meeting. I want to listen to their sales pitch on it, so that if there is any corrective action that's needed by the town to set the record straight, we have that opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Gottlieb, other colleagues from the NSA subcommittee are going around telling half-truths. They're not telling the side of the decisions that are going to be made by the town with respects to how we manage. There will be people that are sacrificed by having to do these IA systems. So I want to listen to it, and we're going to schedule it. We're looking probably sometime around the 23rd or the 24th as one last reminder to the people that hurry up and comment. You got a couple days left.
The DEP is, that's a separate one.
The 17th and the 18th is Mass DEP's informational meeting.
Is that going to be?
They're saying that it's going to be a hybrid, and one's going to be virtual. So they haven't given any details on it.
Location?
No.
They'll give it out on the 15th.
The day before, yeah. The day after.
There was one correspondence that said a hybrid possibility, but they're still, they haven't released further details. So we'll be sometime around the 23rd or 24th. When we come back from the holiday break, we'll be releasing the date at that time. We want the people over the next, 7 to 10 days to enjoy the holidays. Spread the word, but we're not going to carpet bomb them with information, because what we don't want is this just to become part of the background, right, and you forget about it. This is all too important for the next month.
Also, what we don't want is to be perceived as whining crybabies about not wanting to clean water and have a clean environment. We want it more than anybody, but the solution, how to do it and when to do it, is what we're about. It's not about a single issue about just septic tanks. It's about the total package of how we clean up, and we do it in a way that is comprehensive and agreeable, as opposed to the shotgun approach.
I mean, I think that's important, because the most important thing is we want to have clean water. We want to have the environment taken care of. But I mean, this is almost like buying a Mercedes with an engine of a sewing machine. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It looks good on the outside, but the inside, there's nothing there.
That's your government at work.
And Dartmouth was way ahead of the curve. Many of the things they want, we did in the early part of the 21st century, and even the closing years of the the 20th century, excuse me. So in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had some of the first stormwater regs. We have our aquifer regs, which cover the Pascamanskett River and other areas with impervious area requirements, roof recharge requirements, land preservation, increased lot area for zoning, and vast sewering to our utmost capacity. So we don't have many options left.
Been doing at a state level.
Okay. Thank you all for participating in the conversation, and we're going to stay on this and stay on it hard. So we're going to continue, unless any other comments from the experts for now. Thank you for coming and adding a real dimension to our meeting.
Thank you, Will, and thank you for your letters.
Okay, we're going to go to, we're going to move on.
It's just now-
Old business, Mr. McGinnis? Anything?
No new updates.
No new updates, okay.
Thank you,
Thank you very much. Any minutes to approve? Is that we do not?
No.
Mr. McGinnis, anything to say about select board updates?
Yes. Brief updates. One the community outreach fair that was held today, we mentioned that, we went over that. The town's been awarded 2 Seaport Economic Council grants last week. One for $40,000 for a dredging feasibility study in Payneham Harbor, and $32,000 for an economic study of the harbor. So that will be starting the process in the next few months. We've also been awarded a grant of $9,500 from the Department of Industrial Safety. It's for workplace safety and education, for workplace staff training and prevention of occupational injuries. So this is important for all staff. You heard me mention this a few meetings ago, the underground storage tank removal at the old police station site. There was some gas leakage that was discovered, not from the tank itself, but from a previous spill. We contacted DEP, our LSP was on site, so the spill was very small and contained, so nothing needs to be done further, so.
Surprised they didn't want to send in the militia, DEP.
They're busy.
Yes. Just as informational, there's some blood drives that'll be happening in the next few months right here in Town Hall in this room. We have blood drives through the Red Cross. It's January 18th, February 3rd, March 13th, April 20th, May 26th, June 20th, and July 18th. They've all been scheduled, so we urge everyone to contribute and give blood if they can. Mr. McDonald mentioned the COA Holiday Lights Tour. I wanted to thank Amy and the staff for putting that on, but also I wanted to thank Sean Botello, who is a member of our DPW who volunteered to drive one of the vehicles on his own time. You've heard me mention many times the staff here really do contribute in many ways to the community and to the town, as evidenced by the community outreach group. They are all, it's a great group, all working outside of their current job responsibilities to make that happen. So we always like to appreciate staff for volunteering and pitching in. So thank you to Sean and Amy and the staff for doing that. Also, Melanie Perry in my office has just completed the Suffolk University MMA Municipal Finance Management Certificate Program. So it's an intensive program that provides an overview of Mass municipal finance, including operational aspects of the finance structure, systems, processes in all Mass cities and towns. So she is motivated to move up, and she's
good for her. Congratulations.
Yes, very
Quite a
excited.
title, a lot of words in that title, huh?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. McDonald, any comments?
Yeah, in the coming
years,
first quarter of next year, can we have a sit down with DPW? Doesn't have to be at a select board meeting, just maybe Tim and an engineer. Let's discuss some of the conditions of these paper streets in town where we have taxpayers on these paper streets paying taxes but don't have good roads to travel on. Specifically, one of them is like East Wardell Street. You know, it's just
removal and all that.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I mean, I understand precaution because, you know, they're not approved streets, and the town doing work on the streets may cause some problems, yada yada, blah blah blah. But you know something, we have we have people who live in town, who pay taxes in town, and probably don't have the whereabouts to do anything with those roads because the developer's long gone, or, nowhere to be found, or something happened years ago that just basically, to be honest with you, I see nothing wrong with the town going in with some reconstituted asphalt, throwing it down on the lawn, throwing it down on the road, laying it down, at least giving it making these ways passable. Let's see if we can sit down and come up with some kind of a compromise with that.
There are not that many.
There aren't that many.
There's a handful
but,
or so.
There's
but
still,
yeah, right.
but it's still, there's people that, and they've been living in this town for years, and somehow, somewhere down the line, the developer wasn't forced to work on the road, or they used it, or whatever reason is, there's got to be something. There's got to be some relief.
Okay. I'll coordinate that.
Any comments?
No.
You? No?
I just want to wish everyone at home a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and be safe.
And also, Happy Hanukkah to you guys.
Happy Hanukkah started today, first full day.
Yep. 1 candle of 8.
I got 2 candies.
Oh, you got 2 candles
Yeah, I
now?
get 2 every day now.
Okay, now you got 2. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I got to watch my girlish
I
figure.
just want to make sure.
Our next meeting is not until January, so
Yeah.
we,
Yeah?
So, in other words, I don't get to see you guys until next year?
don't.
Yes.
You don't.
Look
We
at
can
that,
have a special
thrilled.
meeting. We can have a special meeting.
Unless we have one, yeah.
Well, you
Okay,
can
well,
zoom it in.
Mr. Chairman,
I can have a cigar, maybe?
adjourn.
Dawson, do I have a motion to adjourn? Any
Motion
other
to
comments?
adjourn.
Already made it.
Oh, didn't hear it. Second.
Do I have any discussions about that motion?
Better not be.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thanks, everybody. Great holidays, safe season.